Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, I'd like to first beg for blessings of the assembled Vaishnavas and all the senior devotees on this call that you see fit to bestow your mercy upon me so that I can speak something relevant and bona fide from the pages of this Granth Shrimad Bhagavatam. 10th canto, the lotus face of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. Only by the mercy of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, are we able to enter into such a beautiful darshan. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, disciples of Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So I'm now going to attempt to share my screen. Unfortunately, I brought a different computer today, so I'm hoping everything will work. But let's see how we go. Okay. Okay. Can everyone see that online? You see it online?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go again. Can you see that online now?
Nope.
Okay, let's go back to Zoom. Share screen.
Yep.
Screen. Oh, I see. Now it will work too. Now it's going to work.
Yeah.
Hold on. Can we see now?
Yep.
Thank Krishna. Okay. So we'll go through the verse, but the title of today's talk is that Krishna cares for his devotees. So the verse today, can please, I'll just read the Sanskrit, the word for word translation and the translation and purport. We can all chant together here in the temple room. Prayo griheshu te chitam kama vitam tata naivaiti priyase vidvan daneshu viditam hime. Praya, for the most part, griheshu, in household affairs, te, your, chitam, mind, akama vihitam, uninfluenced by material desires, tata, also, na, not, eva, indeed, ati, very much, priyase, you take pleasure, vidwan, O wise one, dineshu, in the pursuit of material wealth, viditam, it is known, he, indeed, me, may, by me. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: even though you are mostly involved in household affairs, your mind is not affected by material desires. Nor, O learned one, do you take much pleasure in the pursuit of material wealth. This I am well aware of. Purport. Lord Krishna here reveals that in fact he was well aware of his friend's situation. Sudama was actually learned and spiritually advanced, and therefore he was not interested in ordinary sense gratification, as is the common man. Can I just ask what you're seeing on that screen? Do you see my whole screen with the numbers and the... Yes, you see everything. Okay, perfect. No problem. Okay, so Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Gena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Gena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Vidati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Zajivam Sarvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patiranam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So very important verses that we're hearing today. Of course, all the verses in the Bhagavatam, every single one of them is amazing, powerful, and potent by the mercy of his divine grace. So we're now going to look at a little bit of the context of Krishna and how he cares for his devotees, as we can see in this very beautiful picture here, the Lord himself bathing the feet of Sudama Vipra. So hearing and chanting. So this pastime is being told by Shukadeva Goswami. We're in chapter 80 of the 10th canto. So when I'm reading this, I'm thinking, what is happening in the conversation between Shukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj? 80th chapter of the 10th canto means we're at least up to the 5th or 6th day of full fasting and hearing so much nectar. All these 9 cantos have been completed, and then the 10th canto is in full swing, and almost Krishna's pastimes in this canto are coming to a close. So Parikshit is speaking, he starts his speaking about how much so many people in the world are suffering for want of something and searching for pleasure. Everyone's looking for pleasure, but Parikshit here, after all these days fasting, is simply satisfied by hearing and chanting about the Lord. So also people love to speak, but the perfection of speaking is speaking about Krishna. So thus, seeing the eagerness and spiritual advancement of Parikshit, Shukadeva Goswami is becoming excited to speak more and more pastimes. Thus, the relations between the speaker and the hearer or the listener is established, because both must be qualified and eager. Qualified and eager. So first lesson learned here is the eagerness to hear. So thus, seeing the eagerness and spiritual advancement of Parikshit, Shukadeva became excited to speak more. So let us also generate the same eagerness to hear. Hari Purushpu is full on, ears are growing like this. And even before the class, Manohar, our sage of steady man, Manohar Prabhu came in and was reading the Bhagavatam, the whole chapter he read purport, and he's like just, and he's so eager to hear the class beforehand. So Sudama Vipra, we're here this past time. He is very, very poor. Very poor man. No food in the house. It says that his bones were he was so skinny that the veins were like showing through his skin. He hardly had any cloth. He lived in a small shack and literally no luxury. But he was a devotee of the Lord and had so much love in his heart for the Lord. So understanding the personal form of the Lord brings us bliss or ananda, and this means happiness. So this understanding is complete knowledge, which brings naturally detachment and knowledge, but also naturally satisfaction. And this means that one who is self-controlled and not disturbed by the allurement of the senses, if one is in this state. So one accepts that what one has is sufficient. What I have is sufficient. What I've been given is sufficient, and only strives to be more Krishna conscious. That doesn't mean that one neglects one's duties, and we're going to discuss that later. So the lesson learned here is also be careful not to judge by externals, because if you just saw, maybe if Sudama Vipra walked in, we might be like, oh, who's this kind of, sloppy guy? Let's see, looks real skinny. He's probably living on the street, homeless. So what is the Western saying? Don't judge a book by its cover. Sudama and his wife's name was Shushila. So his wife Shushila, she really loved her husband, and she actually wanted the best for him. And she herself was also suffering in poverty condition, but her love for him was so strong. She was also concerned for herself in one sense, but her main proposition to the Lord to visit Krishna was because of her concern for him. So we ask for things not for ourselves, but for the benefit of others. And this is called selflessness. So just following in the mood of Sudama, who didn't actually want to go and ask Krishna for anything. And even Shushila, she just wanted Sudama to go and ask because she was worried about her husband. And sometimes we can see that in that loving relationship, it may sometimes appear that the wife wants something for herself, but ultimately she's often just wanting the best for her husband. And this mood is selflessness. And Srila Prabhupada explained that in the spiritual world, this is the prominent quality. And in the material world, who possesses the highest level of selflessness? Who did Srila Prabhupada say?
Mother.
Exactly, a mother. Because the love that a mother has for her child is considered the highest level of selflessness in this material world. So Sudama visits the Lord. He had to travel over 100 miles. 100 miles he had to travel to visit the Lord. And he didn't get a train, a plane, or an automobile. He did it Padayatra style. And then he had to pass through 3 military protective camps and finally made it inside where there were 16,108 palaces, and he wasn't sure which one to go to. So getting to see the Lord is not going to be easy. One has to actually make great endeavor. But the more one is a devotee of the Lord, the easier it is, the endeavor. Why? Because that endeavor for something or someone that we love doesn't actually feel like a pain. It feels like pleasure. Just like Srimati Radharani explained that if serving you, Krishna, causes me pain, that pain becomes my greatest pleasure. So how eager the Lord is also to see us. He's more eager to see us. So the lesson here is that we are going to have to pass quite a few tests in order to see the Lord. Just like in the words of the famous Bhakta George Harrison, who says, how does it go? I really want to see you. I don't know the melody and everything right now, so I won't sing it, but like that. So the test is that we have to persevere. We have to have perseverance in our service because there will be many, many tests. And the Lord is eager So we're eager to get to the Lord, but then we have to remember that the Lord is more eager to see us. So Krishna, it says that Krishna was in his palace and he felt within himself Sudama coming. And then he saw from a distance, and then he ran to embrace Sudama with tears of love in his eyes, just like in this picture. Krishna is embracing Gopal Kumar after he returns to the spiritual world. Anyone who's read Bhagavatam Rita knows those powerful scenes. And he invited him into his primary palaces. We were hearing so wonderful yesterday from Jagannath Priya, not into like a servant's quarters, not into any of the other palaces, but the primary palace where Rukmini Devi was. And not only in that palace, but where, such a good point he brought up yesterday, into the bedroom, the most intimate place. He took and sat him on the bed. Amazing. And then all of this meeting took place there. So how eager the Lord is to see us. Actually, he's more eager to see us than we are to see him. In fact, in this pastime of Gopal Kumar, the Lord says to Gopal Kumar when he sees him come back to the spiritual world, he says, every day I pass by this path and I look down this path and I ask, when will he come back to me? Every single day in the spiritual world, Krishna is thinking, when is this soul going to come back to me? And we're here in the material world trying to have a good time. It's crazy. So the Lord is so eager to have us back. So the lesson learned is that Krishna loves us so very, very much, more than we can even imagine. Krishna loves us. He loves us so much that what it says in the Bible that he sent his only begotten son, but he's sending his pure devotee to bring us back to him. Prabhupada said, I didn't want to go, but he said, I will be there. I will be there with you. So Prabhupada came to deliver us all back. So the Lord's love. How Krishna then received and worshiped Sudama. And everyone around was so surprised to see Krishna hugging such a poor and scruffy Brahmana. So the lesson learned again is to not be judgmental. Everyone was surprised, but actually Sudama was a very, very elevated and dear and beloved person. So there's that story that Mahatma Prabhu shares. He took it from, I think, a Christian parable, but he just transposed it for devotees, where the devotee goes back to the spiritual world. Anyone's heard this before? And he's looking around and he's thinking, oh, what's that guy doing here? How did she get here? I mean, come on, Krishna, how could he let that one in? And then they all come together, all the people he was saying that to, and they said, we're all wondering how you got here. So like that, sometimes we can be a little judgmental. I'm sure no one here is judgmental, but so then the Lord begins to reminisce with Sudama. So the Lord, Krishna, he is the origin of reminiscing. So sometimes we may sit around and reminisce about the old days, or the days gone by, or remember when we used to be together on Sankirtan or out on Harinam, or in the early days, of course, when Prabhupada was here, we were there at this program. So like that. So the Lord is the Lord. There are many things I could say, but I'm moving on. He is the Lord of reminiscing. So the lesson learned here is that we need to make friends in Krishna consciousness and also make good memories. Because Bhagavad Gita explains that at the time of death, what is going to determine our next birth? That which you remember. So whatever we remember. So if we're remembering the pastimes of engaging in service to the Lord, remembering the darshans of the Lord, remembering the kirtans, remembering all of these things, then this is what we need to do. So every day is an opportunity to make a new memory, a new samskar. Every moment is an opportunity to make a new memory and make an amazing memory that will be samskared into my heart, so that at the time of death, I remember hearing one lecture that someone said that at the time of death, it's like a roulette wheel getting spun around. And then the ball gets dropped. And what's spinning around aren't numbers, but memories. Memories. Oh, remember that girl. Oh, remember that car. Remember that time. Remember this. And they're all spinning. And where are the balls going to drop? Okay. Where the ball's going to drop, we don't know. But actually, someone was saying that if you see Lord Jagannath on Rath Yatra, just once, anyone who sees Lord Jagannath on Rath Yatra, then that ball drops in the memory of Lord Jagannath. I was thinking, wow, isn't that amazing? So we have to make memories and make friends. So I'll just read the translation and purport from yesterday's verse because I think it's directly related to today's. So we just did a little recap. Hope everyone is still with me and okay. No one's upset or sleeping. Some are, but it's okay. So translation. The Supreme Lord said, not you, my dear Brahmana, you know well the ways of Dharma. After you offered the gift of remuneration to our guru and returned home from his school, did you marry a compatible wife or not? I thought this was such a powerful and important thing. Also, I was thinking, because I was looking up pictures of Sudama and Krishna, and a lot of the pictures are of them as little kids. But that's not actually the case, because Krishna didn't go to Gurukul with Sandipani Muni when he was a little kid. He went after he killed Kamsa, and he was 16, roughly, however old he was when he went to Mathura, when he left. If everyone could please mute, whoever is on with unmuted, if you could please mutate yourself. So he was actually a little older. And also, it's not like he stayed in Sandipani Muni's school for as long as we stay in school. How long, anyone remembers how long roughly he was there?
64 days.
64 days. In 64 days, he learned all of the 64 arts that are meant to be taught over several years. So in one sense, the time and association that Sudama and Krishna had was actually very short, but they became so closely bonded. So like that. So that's my understanding. So the purport, among civilized human beings, the question of ashram or spiritual order is significant. In other words, every human being must execute prescribed duties as a celibate student, a married man or woman, a retired person, or renunciant. Since Lord Krishna could see that the Brahmana was poorly dressed, he inquired if his friend had been properly married. Why? Because if you get married, then usually you're meant to take care of yourself. Or if you don't, then your wife encourages you to take care of yourself by taking care of her. So it's a reciprocal relationship like that. And was he executing the duties of household life? Because he looked a little disheveled. What's up with you, man? Did you get married or what? Come on. What is happening? Since he was not dressed as a renunciant, although he was looking very renounced, but it wasn't actually, he didn't look renounced. He looked a little shabby. He would be without a suitable ashram unless he were properly married. And in today's verse, even though you are mostly involved in household affairs, your mind is not affected by material desires, nor, O learned one, do you take much pleasure in the pursuit of material wealth. This I am well aware of. Lord Krishna here reveals that, in fact, he was well aware of his friend's situation because Krishna is seated in the heart of all living entities. Sudama was actually learned and spiritually advanced, and therefore he was not interested in ordinary sense gratification, as is the common man. So the lesson learned here is that the Grihastha ashram is a bona fide ashram. It is a completely legitimate ashram to make spiritual advancement. And there are many things that we can say on this, but we're going to go through some different things because we're short on time. We'd like to start with an acharya of the Grihastha ashram, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. What an example of a person in the Grihastha ashram. Not only was he 10 children, 11 children, something like that. In one place, Srila Prabhupada explains he was, he was married, had so many children. He was a high court magistrate, fully respected by the British government under the British Raj, so much so that when he wanted to move and give up the job, they built a train track to his house to bring him to work every day. Such a respected Vaishnava, such a respected personality. And yet, if you look at his schedule, every day, solid, steady as a rock sadhana. What an exalted personality. So recently, a group of us have been reading together Sharanagati, and I just wanted to share from the second principle of surrender, Atmanivedanam, dedication of the self, how Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes his household life and how as grihastas, those of you, us who are out there as grihastas, can understand how a grihasta sees. Oh Lord, nothing further remains that may be called mine. Father, friend, brother, you alone are all these to me. My friends, my wife, my sons and daughters are now your servants and maidservants. Whatever care I take for them is only as they are related to you. Das anu das anu das. Everyone calls you Das. Dasharat Prabhu. So if you see your family as maidservants and servants of Krishna, then you're naturally meant to become the servant of the servant. Declaring that my wealth, family members, home, and wife are truly yours. I continue as a mere servant to dutifully protect them. What a mood. For the purpose of your service, I will earn money and bear the expense of maintaining your household. I will work like an ass, like a dog, whatever I need to do to earn money, not to maintain my own sense gratification, but to maintain your household, because this house belongs to you. This family belongs to you. They're your servants, and I am simply their servant. I know nothing of what is good or bad. I simply render my service. I am but a watchman set to guard the properties of your household. Nitai go Premanandi. This is the consciousness. Renunciation does not necessarily mean an ashram. It should mean an ashram, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. Renunciation, as spoken again and again by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna keeps asking the question, you asked me to renounce and then you asked me to fight. And the word is sannyas. You keep telling me to take sannyas, but then you tell me to fight. A sannyasi doesn't fight on the battlefield. Arjuna is a grihasta. Krishna is a grihasta. Lord Chaitanya was a grihasta. Srila Prabhupada was a grihasta. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a grihasta. So it's okay. There's no problem. Lessons learned. We have to become the servants of the servants. So another section I just wanted to share before we conclude is about Vasudev Dat. So this is Lord Chaitanya speaking. My body is the property of Vasudev. Lord Chaitanya says, my body is the property of Vasudev. And he doesn't mean Vasudev Krishna, he means Vasudev Dat. And his alone. He can sell me anywhere he pleases. Basically, Lord Chaitanya says, I am simply the slave of Vasudev Dat. He can do whatever he wants with me. My body belongs to him. So who is this Vasudev Datta? Lord Chaitanya instructs Shivananda Sain. We know who Shivananda Sain is? Also another grihasta. He is the man who took care of all the devotees. Every time they went on pilgrimage to Jagannath Puri, all the way from West Bengal to Jagannath Puri, he covered all expenses. He made sure all the management was covered, took care of the tolls, took care of the hotels, took care of the prasadam, whatever needed to be taken care of. Such an advanced person, Shivananda Sain. So Lord Chaitanya instructed him. Here's some verses here. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 1041. Vasudev Dat The 19th branch of the Chaitanya tree was a great personality and most confidential devotee of the Lord. One could not describe his qualities even with 1,000 mouths. And I'm trying to talk as if I've got 1,000 mouths, just going as quickly as possible, trying to keep everyone here awake. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat, it is said, Yanrastane Krishna Haya Apane Vikraya. Vasudeva Dutt was such a powerful devotee that Krishna was purchased by him. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat, it is described that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so pleased with Vasudeva Dutt and so affectionate toward him that he used to say, I am only Vasudeva Dutta's man. My body is only meant to please Vasudeva Dutt, and he can sell me anywhere. Thrice he vowed that this was a fact and that no one should disbelieve these statements. All my dear devotees, he said, I tell you the truth, my body is especially meant for Vasudeva Dutt. But here's the point. Vasudeva Dutt spent money very liberally. He was a grihasta, and he used to spend his money very liberally. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Shivananda Sain to become his Sarakeli, his secretary, in order to control his extravagant expenses. It's such an interesting concept, because often we hear this side of this complete renunciation, Raghunath Das Goswami, the 6 Goswamis, but here you have Shivananda Sain, who was facilitating all the devotees, and actually he was paying for everything, which means he had some money. He knew how to handle Lakshmi Devi. And Lord Chaitanya is asking Vasudeva Dutt, asking Shivananda Sain to become the accountant or the secretary for Vasudeva Dutt to help him manage his expenses. Vasudeva Dutt was so kind to the living entities that he wanted to take all their sinful reactions so they might be delivered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So if you remember, this is Vasudeva Dutt. He said, let all the sins of all the people in this whole universe come upon me, and I'll suffer so that they can all be delivered. And why did he say this? Who was Vasudeva Dutt in Chaitanya and Krishna Lila? Prahlad Maharaj. Nice one. Yes, he is Prahlad Maharaj. Another verse, purport. Due to Vasudeva Dutt's lavish spending, Shivananda Sain was engaged to supervise his expenditures. So it wasn't just spoken one place in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he speaks it again and then again. The Lord also respectfully told Shivananda Sain, take care of Vasudeva Dutt very nicely. And last, please take care of Vasudeva Dutt's family affairs. Become his manager and make the proper adjustments. So this is just, it shows that Lord Chaitanya was clearly understanding that whatever ashram you're in, you can make advancement. And not only that, that someone who was qualified in one area should help a devotee who's not so expert in that area. And this is loving exchange. So the Lord cares for his devotees. Krishna cares for his devotees. So any questions or reflections? I have tried my best to finish here and some time to leave something. Stop share. Here we go. Okay. I hope everyone was able to stay with me. It was a fast ride. Please forgive me. Hare Krishna.
Excellent.
Okay. Anyone has any thoughts? I can't see everyone.
Jai Nitai Prabhu, we have
my-
a question from yesterday.
Okay.
Sudama Brahmana's wife, how did Sudama, being a grihasta, let himself end up in such poverty that his wife had to interfere? When you're a grihasta, you're not supposed to starve your wife like that. How did that happen? How did
Very-
Krishna allow that?
Very beautiful. Nice, nice point. And yes, I heard that was some discussion, I think yesterday in the Afterglow or something. And I was meditating on that. And that's part of the reason, well, I had already felt when I looked at this earlier to speak on the Grihastha ashram. But when I heard that come up, I thought, okay, Krishna and Prabhupada inspired me correctly. So the thing is that, yes, this does happen. It can happen sometimes. And a really good example of this is Devahuti and Kardamamuni. So Kardamamuni was such an exalted yogi and devotee, but he needed a wife. He recognized that it was time for me to get married. And so the Lord appeared also, again, another example, understanding what he needed and made the arrangement for Manu, Swayambhuva Manu, to bring Devahuti, and then he accepted Devahuti. And she joined his ashram and served him nicely. And he was busy meditating and doing his bhajan. But then after some time, what happened is he realized that he had been neglectful, that he had been so absorbed in his devotional service and his wife absorbed in service to him, that she had become disheveled, emaciated in so many things. So then after that, he realized what a mistake he had made. And then he rectified the situation by creating an aerial mansion palace that flew all over the universe. And then it's described that for thousands of years, they flew around the universe enjoying. So it's a testimony to what's being said, that yes, as a grihasta, there is a call to responsibility to look after the wife and family, but also there may be a tendency amongst either. And it's not just the man that can be renounced. I know people in relationships where the lady is much more renounced than the man. Maybe in my own relationship, my wife is much more renounced than me. And as Adi Purushra also says, we're here with the real devotees and their husbands. So like that. So it's true. So in some relationships, the lady can be actually more renounced than the husband. So it's not necessarily one way or the other, but much agreed that actually the duty is to look after the family. And that's why I specifically read the prayers from Sharanagati, where one can see that as a householder, as a husband or a wife, we don't see that this is my wife. We see that this is Krishna's wife. This is Krishna's daughter, Krishna's servant, Krishna's gopi, and we look after her as if she is Krishna's property. So like that. I hope that answers the question. Someone has their hand. Is that okay?
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Swami. There's a BC has their hand raised. Is that you? Oh, Adipurushru, something? Just hold on 1 second.
Hare Krishna, you can hear okay? Every day we pray to Srila Prabhupada what to say. We don't have anything on our own. We pray, please also pray that whatever we have to say is what we've heard from Guru and Shastra. So dancing around the subject of renunciation, one thing Srila Prabhupada says is a real sannyasi, a real renounced person, is not one who lights no fire and performs no work. You heard that before? When we were living on the farm, and there was a temple building up on the mountain there, and down the road there were these little tiny cabins. The brahmacharis were living, 2 or 3 of them in a cabin. And the first winter that I was there, one of the devotees staying with me said to the temple president, "We're going to be very renounced this winter. We're going to admit," we had a little wood stove in the cabin, "we're not going to make any fire in our cabin. We're just going to tough it out." And he said, "Well, that's not exactly our philosophy. The real renunciation is to get the wood, bring it there, light the fire, and keep the place warm and keep your health so that you can go on in your service to Krishna." So a real sannyasi is not one who lights no fire and performs no work. We're not giving things up. We're dedicating whatever activity we have, whatever is helping us to go on in our devotional service to Krishna. Of course, if we're not focused on devotional service to Krishna and all we do is, pat each other on the back and, facilitate each other's sense gratification, that's not exactly proper. We're serving Krishna and we're doing what will help us to serve Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai, Prabhupada ki jai. Okay. Anyone else? Any reflections, thoughts, questions? See in the chat. No bunker anymore. Great class. Oh, Henry. Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Who's that? Ishwari Sim?
No, this is Gail.
Okay. All
Well,
right.
I asked I think it was Giri Govardhan Prabhu this question. So I'm trying one more time. Um, I once heard that Sudama's wife did not encourage her husband to go and see Krishna for the sake of poverty considerations. It was really for the sake of her husband's relationship with Krishna, that she wanted him to see Krishna because she knew how much seeing Krishna would mean to her husband, and that the poverty situation was just like a ruse, to get him to. So it was not. It had no, let's say, selfish motivations at all. It was purely to serve her husband in that way, to like I said, to for the sake of their loving relationship, she was pushing him and using the poverty thing as an excuse. Have you heard that one?
I haven't heard that directly, nor have I read it anywhere, but it sounds like it could be the case. So I can't exactly comment on whether it sounds like it has validity. Unfortunately, oftentimes we hear the opposite, that his wife was a nag, and
Really? Wow, I never.
I've heard people describe it like that also, unfortunately. And she was, and he just went because he had to, kind of thing. But we see in the purports here and the statements by the acharyas, and that could be one. She was also obviously a very advanced personality. She stayed with her husband. She was extremely loyal to him. And she was also a devotee of Krishna. She knew that Krishna and Sudama were close. So all of these things seem to fit and could be there, but I haven't necessarily heard that or read that as a specific direct commentary, but it sounds like it could certainly be a good, as Prabhupada says, philosophical speculation.
Mm.
What is it? The three modes of material nature, is that chapter 13, 15?
Yeah, I think
13. At the beginning, Prabhupada says you can understand this chapter through philosophical speculation. So philosophical speculation on Krishna is allowed. But I think it sounds perfect, and I'd like to go with that one. So I'm happy to hear that. But if you find some place where it's specifically written, or
Yeah, now I gotta find it somewhere.
yeah. So, but thank you for sharing that, Gail. And I agree. Yeah, sometimes the wife has to say things and do things to get us to do something, the husband to do something, for his ultimate benefit by using a different ruse, as you say. So sounds perfect. Thank you very much, Gail.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna have darshan now, and I'm part of the darshan service program. So I'm gonna stop here because it's gonna happen on time. We got 1 minute. And Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, everyone. You're gonna take over there. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you, Jai Nitai Prabhu and Baba Bhakti Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay, darshan time. Ishwari Sundari, partial darshan. We see the tilak. We see they're smiling. Thank you.
What's so funny, Ananda Bahari?
Really? Ram is making all kinds of noises during the ashram darshan time.
He's ready for darshan.
Yeah, I guess, if that's what it means, right, Ram? Yeah.
Bhagavan ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. All right. It's just Anandi, Vinisha, Sundar Anandaji, Amrita Kishori, Neha, and myself. Cool. And Krishna in the center of our little circle. How are you, Vinisha? What are the plans for today?
I have a Zoom with my Gurudev and some other people coming up. I need to study for Bhakti Shastri.
That's nice. Is Prashant part of that Sangha?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Perfect.
And then, 26 Second Avenue activities. It's going to be a Krishna conscious day.
Great. Wonderful. Cool. Thank you. All right. There's no Isaiah. Adipusha Prabhu, are you childlike enough today? You feeling childlike enough to finish our yagya? Yeah, please unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Das. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Have a wonderful Sunday.